Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing today? I hope y'all are doing well today. I am doing well today. So, the planet is rising in frequency. And because the planet is rising in frequency, we are rising in frequency. We are starting to remember that we are infinite, eternal, immortal, powerful beings that are gifted, that have abilities, that have powers. We do. They are built in. It's just that we forgot that we have these abilities. But now that the planet is rising in frequency once again, we are starting to remember that we have abilities and we have powers and we have these gifts. The world does not want us to remember who we are on that level. That's why everything has been geared to cause us to look outwardly and never look inwardly. Because the moment we realize, or the moment that we start going within, then we realize that we are infinite, eternal, immortal, powerful beings with gifts and abilities and powers. See, the world has taught us that that's entertainment. That is not real. And that is one of the reasons why we believe that is not real. So what I'm saying to you right now may sound far-fetched to you. But that is because we've been conditioned to believe that what I'm speaking about right now is not real. And the world has made us believe that it's not real, but that was on purpose. Because if the world has taught us that these things don't exist, and if you start to believe that they do, that's something that the world does not want, because the world has always taught us that those things are far-fetched, that there is science fiction, that is not real, that is only entertainment, that is not you. But it is you. It's us. And it's always been us. We are telepathic. We are telekinetic. We can teleport. We can do many things. When you watch the X-Men and the Eternals and all these different movies, and I've said this before, they're talking that those movies are about us and what we can do when we are on a high frequency. But most people are on a low frequency, and that is why they don't think it's real, or they don't think it's possible. But we are limitless. And when we start to remember that we are limitless, and that we are gifted, and that we do have powers and abilities, when we believe that, or when we know that, then they'll start to come online, because they are already within us. Because the planet is rising in frequency, I believe that it's activating our abilities and our powers. Those things that are innately within us. Nothing that's coming from outside of us. Because as I said, we've been taught that everything is outside of us. And that's why we never look within ourselves. But that is how the world is geared. It is geared in a way where We're supposed to look outside of ourselves for everything. But every single thing that exists comes from within. Nothing comes out and in, it's in and out. And so when there are people or other souls speaking about abilities and gifts, or they're saying that they're psychic, or that they can read minds, or that they feel energy strongly, or they're able to do things with their mind, then they're weird or they're crazy, or we need to admit you to a hospital. Because we've been taught that that does not exist. And if somebody's talking, even if a person hasn't displayed these things, but they're speaking about it, then you're crazy. And right now, I feel like they are trying to, or they have been trying to suppress us in different ways so that we don't wake up to the fact that we are these powerful beings, that we've always been these powerful beings. As I said before, we are consciousness. We are everything. And they just want us to believe that we're just regular. But we're not just regular. And as I said, they've done things to suppress us, to make us believe that we're not these powerful beings. And then I asked myself, why would they do that? They would do that to control the narrative, to control this reality. But now, as I said before, as the frequency is rising on the planet, whatever hold that they had on humanity is loosening. Everything that they've put into place, everything that's put into place to suppress humanity is collapsing. It has to. Because just like everything, once we were on a high frequency and we fell in frequency, now we are going back to, now we are rising in frequency again. And that's why our abilities and our gifts and our powers are being activated. And coming back online. So you may see activity in the sky. You may see things that you've never seen before. Because we're on a higher frequency. And when it's like, but when you see those things, it may look weird to you, or you may be mind blown by it, but it's something that it's not new to us. We just forgot that whatever we're seeing that we haven't seen before, we've seen it before. We just don't remember that we have. Which goes back to the fact that the planet was on a higher frequency once upon a time. When the planet was on a higher frequency, we were on a higher frequency. Every living thing was on a higher frequency. The animals were on a higher frequency. The trees were on a higher frequency. I said it to say, so when we look at trees, think about them on a higher frequency. Like, I feel like everything had a form, a higher form. So like the animals had a higher form. Like when you see a bird, just imagine a bird, but with a human form. It had a form of a human, but it had a bird head, or whatever species had a form, a higher form. We had a higher form. The trees had a higher form. Everything living had a higher form when we were on a higher frequency. But we fell in frequency. And we fell in frequency. Just imagine if you ever seen those shows where a person can shapeshift into, just say for instance, if it's a human being and they shapeshift into a mouse. In my mind, I imagine animals on a higher form, that they have a form, just say with the bird head, and then when the planet dropped in frequency, then it's like literally the bird shrunk into what we see today as birds. But that was not how they always looked. That's how they look because of the lower frequency that we fell into. But on a higher frequency, they had a form. Everything did. And in my mind, I asked myself, we were even on a higher, of course, we were on a higher frequency. So the way we look now, I don't feel like that's the way we looked when we were on a higher frequency. I don't know how we looked when we were on a higher frequency, but I know we were on a higher frequency. But I say all of to say that we fell in frequency. But now we are rising back into a higher frequency. Now, how will that affect each species? I'm not sure. That remains to be seen. But if you feel some type of way within yourself, if you're experiencing, supernatural situations or events, just know that that's just part of it. That's part of the frequency rising. Not only, the planet, but the frequency is rising within you. So embrace it.